And once more, we turn another page in the story of Auntie Alice. The following is lifted from the book Legendary Territorians by an NT legend himself in the late Reg Harris. Here comes another story, from making the most of a limited education to outsmarting jailers. The Northern Territory has always produced its fair share of remarkable characters. Today, we're going to have a look at two very different stories: Bill Harney and Hank Brockheusin. One of the all-time greats of the Northern Territory was without a shadow of a doubt Bill Harney. He came to the NT and, despite a limited education, just 2 years of schooling in his hometown of Charters Towers, Bill made a fist of his job as a patrol officer for the Native Affairs Department, and he held that position from the 1930s to 1947. He married an Aboriginal woman named Linda that he met in the 1930s, but tragedy would soon sadly follow. Linda became ill before the birth of their son Billy, and she died soon after in Katherine. Further sadness followed when Billy, his son, drowned in the waterhole at the Alice Springs Telegraph Station. Bill Sr. transferred to the NT Reserves Board, where he became the first ranger at Ayers Rock. It was around about this time the famous American musician Bill Haley had his hit song Rock Around the Clock, and Harney became known as the man who watched the rock around the clock. When Bill moved to Alice Springs, Reg Harris's first contact with him was to install the electrical work in his house. Every Friday night, a few cartons of beer would be put on after work, and Bill was invited to join in. Bill claimed he only took up the invitation to hear Reg's staff lectures, consisting mainly of sarcastic comments about mistakes the fellows made during the week. Despite his limited education, he wrote 9 books, including the first Australian bush cookbook. Not only that, he wrote ballads, short stories and verse, and was involved in successful broadcasts on the ABC and BBC. One of his last programs aired all the way over in France, Italy and many other countries. He presented Reg Harris with an autographed copy of his best book, Grief, Gaiety and Aborigines, in 1961. Bill would remind Reg Harris for months that as he had no copies on hand, it cost him 18 shillings and 6 pence at the newsagents. Bill retired to Mooloolaba in Queensland, where he would pass away in 1962. We now move on to another story of a prisoner with the skill sets of the escape artist Harry Houdini. Hank Brockheusin was a petty criminal imprisoned for 6 months in the Alice Springs jail. Rejecting his loss of freedom, Hank became adept to lockpicking and even escaped one night to break into a shop and steal cartons of cigarettes to share with his fellow inmates. His escapades saw his sentence extended, and even when the locks were changed to tamper-proof ones, well, he still managed to escape. Frustrated wardens asked him how he was able to do this and couldn't believe his answer, that it involved a piece of timber in the yard. I used that to vault to the top of the security wall. I hit the top lying flat and roll under the razor wire. The wardens, ever the sceptical, thought it was a bluff, so Hank showed them. And, well, you can guess what happened next. He was on the loose again for another several days. It's believed his 6-month sentence became nearly 5 years. One of his last jobs was looking after the head jailer's garden, whose house was adjacent to the jail. Hank noticed a wooden crate of 4 dozen bottles of beer stashed in the garage. Upon his release, Hank and a few friends broke into the garage and stole the grog, drinking it in a nearby park. Alas, Hank was caught, and yes, you can imagine, he was off to prison again. And those are just 2 snapshots of Northern Territory life from a different era. Bill Harney's life reflects work, writing and contribution across remote Australia despite limited formal education, and the tale of Hank Brockheusin, that's a more unruly one. A reminder of our local legend and prison folklore often blur together in the Northern Territory's history. Together, they've both become a part of the Northern Territory's character itself.
Join us next time for more stories and Legendary Territorians by Reg Harris.